Are you with us, Alan?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we can't see you though.
What? Okay, hold on. Boom. Did it work?
Alan, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you coming. Sorry about the technology issue.
No problem.
So, what we have is we have a cluster of kids, but they're actually in 8 different groups, and each group has one question that they'd love to ask you, if that's all right with you.
Those are kids? I thought those were teachers.
Yeah, the average age is about 55, but they're working on
Wow.
it.
Holy. You guys aren't, I thought you guys were in the staff room right now. No?
No.
I thought you guys were like in grade 12 or 10. I'm just kidding. I didn't. Hit me with some questions.
When you came back from the show alone, did it change you as a person? If so, why?
A little bit. Yes, I would say yes. It just made me after my experience out on the show, it made me feel more appreciative of what I had, and it made me realize how important family is, and how important it is to tell your family how much they mean to you as often as you can. And I guess it just made me more appreciative of all the things that I have, like all the food that I have, or the warm house that I live in. Yeah, so yeah, it just made me appreciate things more. But I think as a person, I think I'm still pretty much the same. But yeah,
What was the hardest thing you did?
when I was out there on the show, well, I think the hardest thing to deal with out there was the cold, because it got really cold out there after about day 50, and I had lost quite a bit of weight, and I had a hard time staying warm. And the sleeping bag that I brought wasn't very good. It said it was rated for -40. It was an expensive sleeping bag, but it really didn't keep me very warm at night. So the nights were really hard. I had to wake up throughout the night and light different fires and heat up rocks just to make it through the night. So that was probably the hardest thing, was trying to stay warm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
About your shelter, what would you change and why?
That's an excellent question. What would I change about my shelter and why? Well, I think I made it a little bit too big, and it took a little bit too long to heat up. And another thing I'd probably do, once my fire was out and it was nice and warm in the teepee, you guys know that there was a hole at the top of my teepee for the smoke to go out, right? Yeah, I would have made some sort of big flap. And so when my fire was out and it wasn't smoking anymore, I would have had this flap propped up with a stick, and I would have taken the stick out, boop, so the flap would fall over the hole again to keep some of that warm air in.
If we were lost in the wild, what things would you want to have on us? Like, what should we
Okay.
have in case we're lost, sort of thing?
Okay. Well, number one, you got to have your brain, right? Because your brain is what's going to get you through. Don't lose your brain. All right, that's important. Just make sure you keep your thoughts really lucid, because a lot of people who get lost in the woods or get in trouble in the woods, they do that because they're not thinking straight and they panic. So number one, just don't panic. And do you guys know what the most important thing to help you survive in the woods?
Shelter and food.
Yes, that is true. Who said that? Who said shelter?
Ava.
Shelter is the first thing that you should worry about out there, because if you can live for 30 days without food, 3 or 4 days without water, but you can die from exposure and hypothermia in 3 hours in extreme weather. So if you get caught out in a rainstorm and the weather gets cold, or a snowstorm, so you have to have, I would always have in my bag, if I was going out, a small tarp and some cord to put up a shelter of some kind. And that's what you should teach yourself how to put up a little tarp. I mean, they're cheap, just big enough so you can lie under. It doesn't have to be big, just a small tarp so you can go under it and keep you dry, and it can block you from the wind. So that's probably the most important thing I'd want to have in my bag, is a tarp and some cord. And what's another good way to keep warm when you're out in the woods? What do you need?
Tyler, go ahead.
Fire.
Yeah, so having a lighter or some matches or a ferro rod like we had on the show in your bag would be also a really good idea. So you could make a little shelter and light a fire. And when you light a fire, it also really helps your brain stay calm, because there's something peaceful and relaxing about sitting around a fire, and it helps people refrain from panicking.
What is a useful skill to know out in the wild?
Oh, there's lots of useful skills to know in the wild. There's so many. It's good to know how to tie knots, because if you're out in the wild and you want to set up a tarp and you have string, but you don't know how to tie any knots, that wouldn't be good. An important skill is also learning how to light a fire. You'd be surprised how many grown-ups don't know how to light a fire when they're in the woods. Tell people where you're going before you go into the woods in case something goes wrong and you get lost, so they'll always be able to find you. Animal identification, being able to identify animals and trees when you're out there is also a good thing. It helps you stay safe and add to your enjoyment. Yeah, there's a lot of different skills that are neat to have out there. Is that enough? There's more, but that's probably enough.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What did it feel like being isolated, like alone in the wild?
There were times every day when I got lonely and I wanted to go home. Pretty much every day, but they just lasted for a short period of time. I was okay with it because I kind of like being alone sometimes. I did miss my family, my friends, and some of the comforts of home sometimes every day. But I knew I was out there for the experience. I knew how lucky I was to be able to have this opportunity to be on the show. So I didn't want to waste it, and I just kept telling myself that even though I want to go home and have a bag of Doritos, I want to stay out here for as long as I can because it's a really neat opportunity, and I might not ever have an opportunity like this again. So it wasn't bad. There were ups and downs.
Nice, thanks so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
So, what was your favorite food out in the wild?
Well, I think my favorite food was probably smoked lake trout because that's what I ate most of, and yeah, no, it was pretty good. I killed about 5 grouse, and those grouse were really good too. And then I'd have soup after that. So, I mean, all I ate out there was I caught about 100 pounds of fish. I got 5 grouse, 2 squirrels, and a few handfuls of berries. There weren't very many berries at my site, unfortunately, but yeah, the berries were pretty good too. Smoked fish was my favorite because that's pretty much all I ate.
That's cool. What was the most important decision that you had to make in the wild?
Oh, decision. Okay, I thought you said I had to make scissors.
You must make scissors.
I had scissors. I had scissors on my Leatherman, so I did have a little pair of scissors. Convincing myself that I was going to stay and keep pushing as hard as I could. I had to give myself self-talks every night near the end. Like, I had a good time up to day 50. After day 50, it was definitely hard because it was so cold and it snowed and it got dark early, and I spent a lot of time in my shelter and I couldn't fish anymore until the lake froze. So the most important decision I made was probably deciding that I wanted to stay. Does that make sense? And the other important decision I guess I made out there was building that shelter I made, the teepee style, because I didn't use a lot of the energy building that. It was pretty easy to build. That was a pretty important decision. And my decision to fish every second that I could was also an important decision, because the reason why I was able to win the show was solely because of me catching fish. I mean, you can be as tough as you want out there, but if you don't have food and you're starving, you're not going to make it to the end. So food is extremely important. So my decision to fish, my decision not to tap, and my decision to make that style of shelter. Man, I answered that question thoroughly, didn't I?
Yeah, that was good. I know that when you won the show, you were probably feeling so excited about everything, but I'm still guessing that the transition was maybe difficult for you. So I'm wondering if you could just speak to that a little. Like, what was that like coming home and adjusting?
It wasn't that bad actually, because I was just so happy. I was so darn happy, so after you get taken off, after day 66, when my wife came to get me, you don't just go home right away. You have to stay at the base camp, or they rented a fly and fishing lodge for 4 months. And so there were cabins there. So it was just a short helicopter ride from where my area was to this fishing lodge. And I stayed there, I think, for 9 days to do a refeeding process. So I had a nice bed, a heated little shack. Lisa was only there for one day, my wife, and she had to go back home. But they don't just let you go, because when your body is starving, in a mode of starvation, if I just went out and had a pizza, I could die or go end up in the hospital because your body's not used to that much food. So the doctors are monitoring you and they look after you and just give you a little bit more food every day until they flew me home on about day 9 or 10. And the adjustments, it was kind of, I got to kind of readjust in camp there because I saw more people. I got a lot. They delivered me food, like 3 small meals and snacks a day, which was awesome. Like that was one of the most incredible parts of coming out, was being reintroduced to all those flavors of eggs and bacon and sausages and sandwiches and oatmeal. And one guy near the end, right before my final interview, this was, I guess I'd been back 4 or 5 days. Somebody from the kitchen found me a mini bag of Doritos. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They were delicious. So, but once I left camp and got back home, I just kind of, and no one knew I was on the show. Like it was a secret. I couldn't tell anyone. So I couldn't, so I lost so much weight, I couldn't kind of go out into the town. I live in a smaller town. And people were a little bit suspicious. So if they saw that I'd lost 78 pounds, they probably go, he was on the show. So I had to lay low for a month or so and just chill out, watch TV, eat lots of good food. I was just, no, the adjustment was pretty easy. Yeah. I just felt so spoiled being home. Like, yeah, it might have been different if I had got second or third, because I was so happy to have, and it wasn't about the money. It was just about the experience and that I had made it till the end, and I'd pushed myself and prepared properly for the show. I don't know. It was really positive for me. Super, super positive.
What was the most prominent feeling you had during the event?
I don't know if I there were so many. I had happiness, sadness, times when I missed my family. I was really excited when I caught fish. Happiness, I guess. I was happy more times than I wasn't. But there were definitely times of sadness. Yeah.
Even though you were more happy to your family, what did you give the money?
I haven't done anything with it yet. Actually, that's not true. Our car broke down 2 weeks ago. The engine actually blew up in our old car. And it wasn't even that old. It didn't blow up. It got wrecked on a trip to Vancouver. So tomorrow, my wife has been without a car for almost a month. So tomorrow, I'm actually using some of the money to buy a Honda Passport. It's like a mid-sized SUV. So tomorrow, I'm spending some money on the car, and I'm giving some money to my kids to help them with their education. I'm giving them $5 each.
Wow, you're so generous.
Well, I might give them 20 if they're good. $20. You think that's too much, you guys? $20? Okay, maybe I'll give them $10 each. And I guess the big thing that I'm doing with the money is I'm retiring a couple of years early, and I'm from teaching. So my last day of work was a couple of weeks ago, and I'm getting into some other things. Like I want to get into some keynote speaking and make YouTube videos. So yeah, so just a couple of years early, retiring from teaching. I mean, I did it for 28 years. I mean, come on, give me a break, you guys.
Alan, you look very, very young. Like you have a youthful energy about you too.
Oh, good. I'm turning 53 in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
Was it easier to survive like towards the start or towards the end? And if it was, how was it easier?
It was way easier at the beginning to survive because there were berries, there were mushrooms, and it was warm. I didn't need as many calories. It was just more comfortable, and the fish were biting. It was kind of like when I got there. I mean, you saw me. I went swimming, and it was warm. No, and definitely much easier to survive at the beginning. And it was harder at the end because of the cold, and I couldn't fish anymore because the lake was starting to freeze and the fish stopped biting. Fishing with my hand line, casting and catching fish. That was really fun. Definitely at the end when Lisa came, when my wife snuck it behind me and when I had won, getting to know all the other participants, just the whole experience. Yeah, there were so many memorable, cool things that happened, like the marten in the snare that I had to release, the duck in my gill net, Lisa sneaking up behind me, building my teepee, just, I don't know, just lots of exciting, neat things, building my smoker, smoking my fish. Probably the most exciting thing was procuring food, like catching those fish and smoking them. And that's what kept me really going, because I knew that every fish that I caught was 2 more days I could stay, right?
Well, Alan, we just want to say thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed. This was a really cool experience.
You're welcome. I hope you guys have a good day. Is it lunchtime there next? Are you guys hungry?
Yeah.
Probably, but specialist time.
Are you guys having a class party because you finished the book?
Yeah.
Did you guys finish it?
Good.
Is this the class party? Did your teacher get donuts and treats and stuff, popcorn?
Why are you putting this pressure on me?
I'm just kidding. All right, guys, it was nice talking to you all, and you guys take care. Yeah, good questions, guys. Those were some really good questions. I think you guys asked better questions than a lot of my radio interviews.
Wow. Okay, that's high praise. All right.
All right,
Thanks,
guys.
Alan.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.